Welcome to Inside with Moonshadow. I am Moonshadow. I'm a holistic therapist, shaman, intuitive, and just a soul living in a human body. But I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Inside with Moonshadow. This is Inside with Moonshadow, episode 115, so 115. So here we are next to this beautiful, of course, loving nature, by the water and by the woods. It's a wonderful place to be. And I'm glad and fortunate that I've been able to enjoy this area for as long as I can remember. Now, today's episode is regarding something that was brought up to me within a conversation recently. And it was about incarnation and reincarnation, and how there's some people aren't really sure exactly what reincarnation is. If you go by some organized religion, you find that reincarnation is only meant for a select few, i.e. prophets and people that are divinely blessed. Oops, hang on one second. Gotta love Mother Nature. But there's a lot of things that happen that actually have proof to reincarnation, what reincarnation is, what reincarnation has become as well. So a lot of people tend to think it's something, really grandiose sometimes, but it's a lot more simple. It's still yet profound, regardless. So, looking at it from that perspective, there are certain things that you could ultimately remember, whether or not you've been reincarnated. So let's start off with just a couple of things. So now, do you or are you interested in certain cultures, for example, or certain places, or certain people? Well, that in itself could be very much a prominent possibility of a past life memory. Now, in doing some past life regressions, there have been actual proof that I have been able to help and find other people's past incarnations before. And that, honestly, is just an amazing thing to discover. Now, looking at reincarnation. So now, reincarnation is different things to different people. So now we have reincarnation in world religions. Reincarnation is not an old idea. It's not something that it's been around for a long, long time, even in Catholicism, Christianity. Even Christ himself came back from being dead, So now that is part of the connection of the story of reincarnation. Now this goes back much farther than that. Now, with, sorry about the wind, everyone. You might hear a little bit of wind, but this is nature. Nature is a pretty cool thing. So now, a lot of times, people have not realized that along all cultures, along all ideas, along all situations within and history of reincarnation, there's been things that have been constant. There's been the fact of the body is shed. So we are a soul, we are a spark, we are a spirit. So with that, that's one thing. Also, too, there's the level of the fact that energy cannot be created nor destroyed. Now, since we were taught this at a very young age, we were taught that in science. So looking at it, if energy cannot be now created nor destroyed, and we are basically bio-energy or bio-electric energy, as many very logical people in society have admitted to, whether they wanted to or not, the fact still goes that all these synapses that are firing within our brains and within our bodies and helping us with our heart beating and our minds and our breath, all of that usually entails the fact of that spark that's within us. So now looking at that spark, what makes us us? Is it your face? Is it your height? Is it your hair color? All those things. Now, if you really, really think about it from that perspective, that's just a surface. Ultimately, this is just a casing. This is just a representation of who we are brought into life to be. So now with reincarnation itself, you could have, and a lot of people, this is interesting too, a lot of people have gone, and I have done some past life regressions where some people were very prominent figures. They were prominent people. They were higher in society and things like that. But a lot of times as well, they were just regular people. They were just people that lived in a village or lived in a tribe. And they were quite amazed because a lot of those sessions were recorded. So to play back the recording and to have them, these people, be shocked and amazed at themselves, who they were, and kind of doing like an interview of sorts of their past selves so they could understand that their soul has traveled before into different places. Now, reincarnation to me, like one of my totems happens to be the phoenix, and the phoenix is, obviously a mythical animal, but I believe that some animals, mythical or no, have some origin in truth. So even the phoenix has been a big symbol of reincarnation, because the phoenix, after X amount after being alive for a long time, goes to ash, and then it comes back alive again. From ash to its prominent, beautiful, fiery color. So I could very much relate to the phoenix, and the phoenix is very much a totem, but also a very big symbol with reincarnation. The phoenix itself, without stepping aside from the topic, the phoenix itself has also been through multiple cultures and multiple societies, and they all had their own view of what they thought was reincarnation. So now you have the Hindus, you have the Buddhists, you also have the Christians and Christianity and Catholicism. All of these religions. Now, mind you, a lot of research goes into figuring out what reincarnation truly is. They actually believe that the soul or the spirit is actually about, I think it was 21 grams, I believe it was 21 grams. And then they measured someone that had passed on immediately, as soon as they were dead. They measured them and they weighed them, and they were 21 grams lighter. Now, thinking about this for a second, now if you really look at this and you really, really think about this, 21 grams lighter, this is scientific. Now, again, yes, of course, I'm pro-reincarnation because I'm thinking that there must be. Hey, Luke, what's up? Well, yes, but even in Christianity, Luke, reincarnation is part of it. The only difference is they saved it only for Christ. They didn't necessarily say that other people had reincarnated. So also, just as a side, a lot of religions were brought up via oral history through wanting to create or change different people. So don't mind if there's cars going by, because I'm in nature, but unfortunately I needed to also find some form of signal too, so sorry, not sorry. But the thing was, within a lot of different religions and spiritualities, they took from each other and then they amended their own, so they can obviously, bring people into their movement, to their religion, to their spirituality. Glad that wasn't a gator. We don't have gators here. However, I did in taking my walk recently, because prior to hopping on live, I had to set up and I had to recenter. But I did hear some rustling, so it could have been anything from coyotes, it could have been deer, it could have been groundhogs. I saw quite a few animals as well, quite a few birds. So I'll have to check out their medicine and journey about them and see if they have a message for me. But so now I actually have proof, legitimate proof of where reincarnation could have, how it could have, how can I put it? Actual scientific proof that there is reincarnation or something, or makes you at least scratch your head. So this is by any means not something to convince you, because I'm not here to convince you. I'm not here to talk about any of that. Hey, Michael. This is really all about opening your mind to other possibilities and other ways of thinking, because we all learn from our experiences. We all learn from what we see, what we hear, what we touch, and everything. But also, too, there's our human experience, and then there's our spiritual experience. And I can honestly say that it's been a tough road shamanically for me. But with that being said, that our soul it does come back. Now, it depends. Now, there are a few different theories. Thank you, Michael. There are a few theories regarding reincarnation. Some people believe that you don't reincarnate, right? So that some people just believe that they just, you just go. You go to heaven, you go to hell. Some people say that you go to, a place. Now, I can understand that is possible. However, also, too, I think that if you did not have this body, if you did not have this casing, where could you go? And I have quite often thought of how amazing it would be to permanently be just a spirit, just be a soul, just be going on to the next, the beyond, whatever that is. Something that comes to my mind quite often in my shamanic life. But so now, with reincarnation, now feel free to pop in and give me your experiences, what you believe. So now Luke says that he's unsure. He's unsure about reincarnation because he's a Christian. Now, of course, we don't judge and criticize people here regarding what their belief system is. So if that's what you believe, that's perfectly fine. Hello. So, so depending on what your belief systems are, because some people are very open within their belief system, some people aren't, and that's perfectly okay, because you are as unlimited as you choose. we have a friend. It's a cute black lab. But so now everyone has their particular belief systems. So in looking at that, you are as unlimited or limited as you are. Now granted, we are already limited within our bodies, within our minds, within our souls. We are already limited there. So, however, with our soul, it's a bit different. We are very unlimited. There are many times that we are, think of it this way. If you have, and this is going to be, I don't know if this is a great example, but this is an example nevertheless. You look at a piece of plastic. A piece of plastic is a piece of plastic is a piece of plastic, right? Now, what happens when you have, you can't just throw away plastic, right? Because it lasts forever. As a matter of fact, all the plastic that's being created and made in the world today will probably still be in the world for a long, long time until we figure out a way of getting rid of it. However, up until now, all they can do is repurpose it or upscale it or recycle it. So now that being said, we're doing the same thing with our souls. Now there's a school of thought where they believe, whoever they are, they believe that we forget everything. That we absolutely forget everything. We're wiped clean and we go into a new life. That new life could be, and again, this is also another school of thought. Some people believe that the soul, the human soul, can only reincarnate into another human soul. But if we're energy, well, why would we be so limited? Why would we be stuck only reincarnating or incarnating into a soul, into a human body? Who's to say that we can't incarnate into an animal, or into nature, or into something else? So looking at that, a lot of us, we tend to be sometimes confused. Like if you have dreams, like you can have potential dreams of a place far away that you've never been, or cultures that you've seen but you just seem drawn to. Many of us have come from as far back as Atlantis, or deep in space. There's also a theory, which I cannot say it's inaccurate, that we all come from space, and we were brought here. However, this all may sound very cray-cray to people that may or may not have heard or wanted to, or were raised by or not raised by this kind of thought pattern. But if you really, really think about it, the soul itself, that spark, that life spark that is within us, is something that is mysterious and I think immeasurable, really. Other than that 21 gram scenario that they measured in a body once it passed, that's only the starting point. I think that's only the doorknob to what reincarnation could be and what the soul truly, truly is. Now, we're going to go through some claims of physical evidence of reincarnation. Now, I actually have it written down, so unfortunately, I'm going to have to look at some notes because it's a pretty good amount of information, so I apologize. To remember everything, to remember every single thing, even with more show prep, it would be kind of difficult. But let's see here. Now, first of all, there are people that were born that are born with birthmarks, and like a lot of times, birthmarks could be an indication that you lived before. I actually did work with a couple of people that had unexplainable birthmarks, and doing past life regression, that those birthmarks coincided with something that happened to them in another life. Now, how can that be? How can that pass on from body to body and that kind of thing? Well, it can, simply because it works very much similarly to heredity. There are a lot of things that could be passed on through heredity, and things that are not necessarily on a physical level. Characteristics can be passed on from family member to family member, and I have seen that as well in person. So now, here's an example. There was a child that was born with bullet wounds. So now, interestingly enough, and I'm going to move this up. Now, this was published in a paper in the Journal of Scientific Exploration. Okay, in one case, a child in Turkey was remembered the life of a man who was killed by a shotgun. Now, the records had said that the man had died 6 days after injuries caused by a blast to the right side of his skull. Now, the boy in question was born with a unilateral microtia, a malformed ear, okay, and the hemifacial microsomia, which is an undevelopment of the right side of his face. So now, 1 in 6,000 babies. This happens in 1 in 6,000 babies, okay? However, let's see here. All right, so now they found that this was very coinciding with the situation, with what happened with this man. Let's see here. All right, okay, here's a good one. So, There is so much. This is just the crazy thing. You know what? There's a lot of information here. So we could just breeze through it a bit, because I know you guys don't want to hear all that scientific stuff. However, but there is someone that was reincarnated. Oh, really? A friend of yours had something like that. Now, also too, as a side note, I've actually woken up from either a shamanic journey or a dream or a vision, and woke up with physical marks on my body from that coincided exactly, location, what happened, everything. Now, call that crazy if you will. I know it sounds absolutely insane. It does. It does. However, it does happen. And the mysterious, see, this is the thing. A lot of times people will think that what they see, hear, feel, and touch, only the five senses. There are so many other senses that we actually have that lie dormant within ourselves. And our soul remembers. So recently, in this really big unasked for quest that I was put in the past few months, actually, that a lot of information was brought to me that I'm still trying to wrap my head around. And it's something that it may take me quite some time to sort out everything, places, people, everything. It's an incredible, we are more than just this body. We are just more than this human experience. And a lot of times we forget that. Now, a lot of these people, with reincarnation, a lot of these people may be stuck, or they may remember. And that's also another thing that happens. It doesn't happen terribly often. However, there are a lot of times that people have residual memories or residual energy within their body, within their mind, somewhere deep in their soul, they remember. I remember a few lifetimes that I've been involved in that were like so prominent. I couldn't figure out why. So in working with other people, that is when I was able to gain more knowledge of where it was, who it was, and everything. So seeking help in other people is also very, very important, because you can't always do it yourself. However, in looking at that brought back a whole different slew of things. As an example, in one past life, I was a soldier for hire. I was a sword for hire. Now, what ended up happening was I had taken a wound in a leg. Now, I did not realize that in walking, I nursed every now and then my leg would bother me a little bit in one way, shape, or form, and it wasn't something that had happened in this incarnation, in this lifetime. So I kind of put it off without thinking. Well, in working with another person that was an intuitive, she had the information that came to her through my guides and said, "Oh, do you realize that you took a sword to the leg? So this is an old wound that you need to get healed, even now in this day and age." So I did work with a couple of different people via energy work and introspection and working within. And in doing that, I was able to heal that wound. But it was weird though, because it wasn't expected, and it was something that it passed by my mind. I didn't realize that was the case. So there are a lot of people out there that you could reach out for help and kind of like get more of a clue or an insight on who you are, what's going on, what's happening, because it is what it is. We are all works in progress. We all are parts and chapters of a story. The question is if certain chapters are closed or certain chapters are open, or that kind of thing. That's the only difference. So now we have, child born with a bullet wound, right? Then, this is another story that I had read as well. Now, this person actually had murdered someone. That they had murdered someone and they had passed away. Okay, this is going back way, way, way a long time ago. Now, guess what happens? Now, in this story, this woman marries this man. And she wonders, this guy just seems so familiar, Come to find out through a lot of, work later on with being with this person that they were together before. And so it was the second chance for them to actually fulfill that karmic connection from the beginning. So not all business is always is always finished or unfinished business, depending on your karmic state and what happens with overall soul contracts. Now, here's another one. Now, there was also writing. Okay, so now with this one, there was a child that wrote uniquely. And they tried to figure out, and this was India, so they tried to figure out what was going on with this child. Well, they did research it after quite a long time, and they found out someone that passed on that they had the same exact handwriting. So there are so many different aspects of this, and I can bug you with all the physical evidence, but there are physical evidence. I have just 10 claims here. Between reincarnated writing, between memories of temples and monasteries, having scars, strange scars. And I even have known people that believe that their pets were once a family relative. So, what are we really made up of? Yes, we're made up of a lot of water. We're made of minerals and elements. I believe that we are made of the same spark that created nature. I believe we all have the same spark as a divine. Now, what we do with that spark, that's a whole different story. That's a whole different situation. Now, if you have any questions, definitely throw them up in the chat, because that's also invited, and if you don't feel comfortable, that's okay. That's perfectly all right as well. But that soul spark that is deep within us, how can we dismiss the fact that it is a lot more intensified and complex? Because what happens when you go to sleep at night? Do you simply just go to sleep? Does your body just rest? Do you travel? Do you see long-lost places? Do you visualize places that you may have never been, but you're connected to? Cultures that you may have seen or not seen, ever, but feel a kinship to. All these things really are so expansive that it could be very difficult for the mind to even comprehend. I've had some really deep conversations with some people that, had far more larger degrees than myself, and they were far more scientific and logical. And even in those conversations, we had come to some form of impasse in a way to say, well, even they had said, well, I may not be able to connect fully with that because it's more abstract. But they couldn't dismiss it either. So being open was a pretty cool thing to have these great conversations with these people. Now, there's also dream analysis too. You can find a lot, some connectivity with reincarnation through dreams as well. Because any experience that you may have, you may find it could be connected to a reincarnate state. So could you have been a woman? Absolutely. Could you have been a man? Absolutely. Could you have been an animal? Now, granted, in my view, energy can be anything. The Buddhists believe that when the body, or when the soul has done what is needed to do, has done its due life purpose or duty, that it changes. So it leaves to go to a place where it comes back to another life, to another purpose. There are other theories that you learn lessons, and then when you're done with learning all your lessons, then you pass on, then you move on. Kind of like a school of soul, if you will. I take a little bit more of that school of thought, honestly, because I believe that the soul and spirit, whether we're young souls or old souls, move forward in the, I don't know, academia of life, I guess. So moving through, incarnating, you learn something new. You reconnect. I've had the experience of reuniting with quite a few, surprisingly, honestly, because that doesn't happen all the time. That's kind of a rare thing from what I've read. But reconnecting with people from a dear past, from way back. Some people, when you connect for a reason. And sometimes it's unfinished business. It depends. I've seen that with people I've worked with. I've seen that with myself, my own personal life as well. And it honestly amazes me every single time, even doing this work. It's always fascinating. It's always profound. Because the soul, we're only scratching the surface. The soul is, kind of like how we work with our subconscious. Our subconscious is massive, but we only scratch the surface on the conscious level of what we think or know. There's so much more deep inside in who we are and how we're built. So it's hard to wrap your mind around that. It's hard to wrap your mind about how you could have been here before. Or how, your child may have been your parent. No kidding. Sorry, not sorry, but this is actually true. I've actually seen that happen within families, where people that were related in one way played other roles with each other before. Now, how crazy is that? But I've also have experienced that in my personal life as well. And that is really hard to wrap your head around. It's hard to sort out the hows and whats and whys and wheres and what is it supposed to be and everything. And in doing that, that could make living in this human body incredibly difficult because we are so complex. We are an amazing creation, and our soul is just where it starts. That spark is just where it begins. Here's a little experiment for you. And this is something where not all people can see particularly, but this is something you can try. If you look at something, an easy thing would be to look at a candle. And if you close your eyes just slightly and kind of squint a little bit and look at the candle, you'll be able to see the aura of that candle, the color, the spark around that candle. Now, of course, don't do this in public with people staring at you because they may think you're crazy. But I wouldn't suggest doing that then. However, you could do that with plants. You could do that with animals. And you'd be amazed. You might be able to see or feel with your hands, feel their aura, where their their aura stops where their soul begins, where their soul ends. One thing, too late, they already know. Right. It's true, right? But the thing is too, it's a little too late for me to look normal to people anyway, and there's nothing I can change about that. But for the people that do understand, I love and appreciate you, and whether it be love now, love then, love to be, I appreciate all of it. But in truly looking at and touching who we are in the world, and really looking at our soul, our spark, where we've been, it's only the beginning of the story. It's only the beginning of the story. So I invite you, I challenge you to look at within yourself, and if you have dreams, if you remember memories, if you think of other possibilities, try to research them a little bit. Or you can talk to someone. You can talk to someone that is more spiritually inclined or shamanically inclined, like myself. And there's quite a lot of people out there that do this work as well. They do past life regressions through hypnotherapy, for example, or they are just strongly intuitive. They can work with different tools as well. But I urge you to look, because this is the progress of your soul lessons. This is the progress of who you are and who you are to be. Because I believe that when it's time to part ways with this body, I believe a lot comes up that we may or may not understand, that we may or may not want to understand. That in itself could be very nerve-wracking and something to really think about. Now, I do suggest always to look things up, research, and expand your mind, expand your spirit. Because ultimately, if you do, all you can do is learn more about what's out there. There is far more out there within our life, our lifetime. There's far more out there that we don't necessarily see, hear, feel, or touch. There's a lot more information that is not just from a physical level. There are a lot more reasons why we are who we are. And it's beyond the human experience. It's so far beyond the human experience, and it's something where it doesn't matter what denomination, doesn't matter what church you go to, it doesn't matter what your spirituality is, it's still there. It just depends on what you decide to open your eyes to see and what you decide not to. And either way, you're right. Now, since the soul is such a crazy thing, and our soul's purpose is also another, there's something within our soul's capability to keep going. So it's something where it's good to respect and realize and really look into and care for that spark that's deep within you. Some people will come back many times over, and some people are closing, close to the end, going full circle. It's something that it's really up to what you signed on for, what you're supposed to do, what you're supposed to be, and how you're supposed to go. I know, heavy duty thinking this week. And that's just only, a little bit of my crazy deep mindset. But ultimately, I'm going to sum up the show. But your soul is your spark. It's the starting point where everything begins. And it's where everything goes. As you've heard, ash to ashes, dust to dust. That's on your body. We are so more than human needs and human emotions and our human body. There's so much more to us than that. And sometimes, in delving a little too deep in that, you forget some things. But there's always lessons. There's also many chapters. Some chapters still unwritten, some chapters unfinished, some chapters closed. It really all depends on where our souls are supposed to be, how they're supposed to go, where our story is supposed to reach, and the legacy that we're supposed to leave behind. All those things matter. All of them do. But be well and take care of that soul. And thank you so much, Luke. I appreciate that. And lots of love to you as well. I want to thank all of you for being around, people that have watched it live as well as people seeing it later. I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to also personally thank anyone that has helped along the way, whether it was in the beginning, many platforms ago, to now. You are loved and needed and wanted just as you were from minute one. So it has not gone unknown, it hasn't gone unforgotten. And however anyone wants to see this soul, just remember that this soul still loves. So I want to thank you all. Thank you for your inspiration. Thank you for everything, for the lessons, the conversations, your opinions, your comments, and all of them were considered and thought of. So I want to thank you. And I look forward to seeing you again, all of you. So be well, be kind, and of course, be strong, be amazing, be you. Take care, guys.